Hello, my name is Sam Feltham and welcome to Expert Interviews here on Smash the Fat. With me today is the founder of Harmony Eating and Lifestyle Program, the world's first inpatient program geared towards treating sugar and carbohydrate as an addiction, Karen Thomson, all the way from South Africa. How you doing, Karen?
Hi Sam, good, and you?
Yeah, all good in the hood. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I've been following you for kind of probably the last 6 months because you're not only the founder of HELP, the Harmony Eating and Lifestyle Program, but also kind of the initiator of this new the world's first international low carb high fat health summit being held in Cape Town next year. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what happens with that, because a lot has been happening in South Africa in regards to low carb high fat, with Professor Tim Noakes and yourself and other people kind of, you know, really busting some myths and making things happen, which is incredible. So congratulations on that. And you've had your own kind of health story yourself, because you used to be a bit of a sugar addict yourself, and we're going to kind of get into that. But before that, can you go into kind of your background, where you've come from, and why you've kind of ended up where you are today?
Sure. So I actually started out as a drug addict, an alcoholic, and that's really where my understanding and the concept of addiction came about. Mm-hmm. So, and through being in recovery from alcohol and drugs, specifically cocaine, mm-hmm. I started realizing that that sugar had the same addictive properties as my other addictions had. And then I started tracing back my sugar addiction and saw it started in childhood. From my first memories, from the age of about 4, I could remember soothing myself with sugar, and that specific junk foods meant specific things to me. So whenever I needed love and assurance, still now I'll crave a Coca-Cola because it reminds me of my father and him coming home with a Coca-Cola in the evenings, and how that liquid that's how I learned to soothe myself. So my story of addiction is that I started using sugar at the age of 4 to soothe myself. I then started modeling at the age of 16, which is just like the most disastrous thing anybody can ever do. And I discovered cocaine and alcohol there. And cocaine really I used to try and be thin, mm-hmm. because I've always been more of a compulsive overeater than an anorexic. So I used cocaine to feel in control, to boost my self-esteem, and to lose weight. And then it was just a complete and utter downward spiral into a space where nobody really wanted to know me anymore, and I didn't want to know myself. So I went into rehab, got clean off cocaine and alcohol, and discovered I had a sugar addiction
as well. And then that's kind of where all of this kind of stems from, really. So how do you kind of overcome a sugar addiction? You know, because I deal with this kind of every day, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So what's kind of your steps to being sugar sober, I suppose, is the best phrase.
Nice, I like that. I'm going to definitely be using the sugar sober term. So essentially, it's complete abstinence, right? So it's complete abstinence from sugar, from fake sugar as well. So no sweeteners, nothing that triggers the brain, because my brain can't really distinguish between real sugar and fake sugar. It's the sweet taste that I'm after. So complete abstinence from any sugar and sugar substitutes. Then I think the biggest key is identifying the underlying triggers and cravings and emotional attachment that we have to sugar. And instead of soothing ourselves with sugar or carbs, we look at different ways of meeting those emotional needs that doesn't involve food.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of what's the best way to try and identify those triggers? Because you were kind of saying there that it was your dad almost, and when you kind of do get emotional, you kind of search for a can of Coke because you have that attachment. there? How
Yeah.
do you kind of become aware of those triggers?
So it's about looking at your memories, those feeling memories that we have in relation to something. And I think, if you can identify as a sugar addict, you have certain foods that you gravitate towards. And even though we will consume sugar in general, there's always a specific food that I would gravitate towards. And it was kind of tracing back those memories and seeing where they came from, or looking at the feeling that I was trying to satisfy, and then through journaling and speaking to people, identifying what the real underlying cause was. And often, I mean, my biggest trigger is not feeling good enough and not feeling accepted. And I still have to watch for those. And those are also the times when I want to go and just soothe myself with sugar. So I really had to look at what it is that I'm craving and how it related to my childhood, and try and feed it in a healthier way.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of becoming self-aware. We've talked about this a lot kind of in the past few podcasts, kind of with the chimp paradox and things like that. But becoming self-aware of something is kind of the first step to fixing it, you know?
Definitely.
So once you do become aware of it, then how do we kind of manage that trigger, you know?
Okay, so you have to find a way to soothe it that doesn't involve sugar or carbs. So you have to look at what is being triggered. So are you feeling lonely, angry, hungry, tired? Like, what's the feeling? Like, what is the feeling that you need to soothe, that you just like pushing down by using sugar or not allowing to come out? And then find an appropriate tool to work with that. So for me, I have to, if I get really angry, I need to go exercise. I need to get that energy out. So I need to go for a run in the forest, or I need to go do some power yoga, or I need to do that instead of feeding it. If I'm feeling lonely, I need to phone a friend, or I need to write in my journal, or I need to ask someone for a hug, which is really hard for me. If I'm feeling tired, I need to sleep. So it's just about identifying my basic needs and figuring out how to have them met.
Absolutely. And kind of how has your diet changed from what it once was when you were a sugar addict to what it is today?
So it's become a lot more authentic. So I eat real food. Just eat real food, you know. I don't eat fake food. I don't try and recreate like cakes and things using stevia or any of those artificial sweeteners. I really eat real food. So I eat food in its natural form. I try as much as possible to know where my food came from. So not just knowing that it came from a supermarket. I've upped my fat intake a lot, which helped a lot with the sugar cravings. I also juice a lot. So no fruit juices though, but I do quite a lot of green juice, which really works for me. And then also my, I have a lot of kombucha and sauerkraut and all the things that really help my gut bacteria. Because in addition to the sugar addiction and the cocaine addiction, there was always like an underlying depression and anxiety, which in my belief has stemmed from my gut flora. So I really, really am working quite hard on trying to rectify that.
Absolutely, and kombucha is something that I've actually just been introduced to. Really, I had heard of it before and things. I'd never really looked too much into it. I do have fermented vegetables and things like that in my diet, but I didn't try it until kind of a couple of weeks ago at Health Unplugged, this the UK's first paleo conference, because there's a company there, Love Kombucha, who are kind of distributing it throughout the UK, because it's not really a big thing over here in the UK. I do kind of seeing it now, not at all. I kind of see it becoming a bit more of a trend if they can kind of get in places like Itsu and kind of Yo Sushi, which is the kind of sushi type places. It will kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger. But talking of kind of conferences and things like that, as I mentioned at the beginning, you are going to be hosting the first international low carb, high fat health summit, bringing experts from all over the world. Dr. Asim Malhotra from here in the UK, Dr. Eric Westman, Steve Finney as well, the godfather of all of this, Professor Tim Noakes, of course, and many, many, many more fantastic experts. So kind of how has that come about, to bring all these experts together?
Okay, so what happened is that I've just written a book. I've co-authored a book which is going to be launched in Feb. So I was like, oh, I wonder what event I can create to help with the launch of this book. So I thought it would be a good idea to invite like one international expert to come and speak, and we could create an event. And then suddenly it just spiraled out of control, and I invited like everyone, and everyone said yes. And now we have this phenomenal conference, which is, you know what I mean, like morphed way beyond what it first was supposed to be into something which has literally taken on a life of its own. Which is incredibly exciting. And I'm really excited to have Dr. Malhotra there, because he is the coolest cardiologist that there is. So, yeah, he's going to be brilliant. And then everybody else, and then hopefully you'll be there as well. But what we're wanting to do is we're really wanting to demystify the low-carb, high-fat way of life, and get everybody together in one under one roof, so that they can all share their experience. Because I don't think, according to my knowledge, that that's ever happened. That people from Sweden, Norway, the USA, the UK have all gotten together to kind of like share their stuff.
Yeah, certainly not to my knowledge. I think kind of the closest thing is probably the Ancestral Health Symposium, but that's kind of that's not really the low carb, high fat community. Completely, and kind of just having them together, so it's just those experts. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, and this is being held in Cape Town, so it's a good excuse to go to South Africa for sure, and sort of check out everybody there. But what's going to kind of be happening in that on that day, on that weekend, in fact, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 3 days. The first 2 days is a medical conference, but the general public can attend. So we have registered the event for CPD points. I don't know if your medical professionals have to do the same thing.
Yeah, they do, and kind of, a lot of professions have to do
that. Yeah, so we've registered it for 22 CPD points, which is really good. And then the third day is a public event, but I would recommend that people come to all 3 days, because it's all going to be different. So we're going to be looking at the science behind low carb, high fat. We're going to be exploring this revolution throughout the world. So we've got Andreas Enfield from Sweden. We've got some people coming from Norway. We've got Zoe Harcombe and you, hopefully, and Dr. Malhotra from the UK. And then we've got all these phenomenal Americans, and I love Americans because they're so friendly. So we're really going to have the most phenomenal bunch of people together, and just explore like the cholesterol myth, the use of statins. We're going to take on the big industry. We're going to invite some of the naysayers, the South African naysayers, to come and publicly debate the experts as well. So they can't hide behind the media anymore. They actually have to, put the money where the mouth is.
That's right, and kind of speak face to face, because it's very, very easy just to kind of do these written correspondence, and you kind of see it online in comment threads and things like that, that people are absolutely fine kind of, really, really, insulting someone kind of on a comment thread. But when it comes face to face, it's a completely different animal. And even kind of when you're talking like this via video conference, people completely change their behavior. But talking of kind of all of that, and it's quite right that it's being held in Cape Town, because there's been an amazing transition in South Africa at the moment, and there's kind of a real food revolution which has been started obviously by Professor Tim Noakes and everybody else that was involved with that, and yourself. What's going on in South Africa at the moment, and kind of what's the feeling on the street is what I want to know.
The feeling on the streets is that there's a huge revolution, and actually there was a recent study was done in the Food Chronicles or something, and they established that due to Tim Noakes' diet, the consumer demand is driving supply. So we are finding that all full-fat products are sold out very quickly. The sales of cauliflower and cream have skyrocketed. People are really jumping onto this bandwagon, and we're literally like demonizing low-fat, fat-free products. People are trying to, in my opinion, be a lot more authentic in what they eat. So we're trying to support farmers markets and co-ops, going back to organ meats, and really just trying to keep it real. But it has been huge. I mean, the backlash that Professor Noakes has gotten has been insane.
Yeah.
And that's another reason for organizing this conference, is to really like get these international experts here to show our local medical experts that, you know what, there is proof. There are other people who believe in this, and that it's not going to kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And kind of a lot of people and a lot of experts even will kind of brush off a low carb approach just because of, you know, they've still got these ideas of, you know, artery clogging, saturated fat in their mind and things like that. And they just haven't looked at the science. It's incredible that a lot of these so-called health experts that are in positions of power in academic institutions haven't even read all the randomized controlled trials. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it is. You know what? It's that case of cognitive dissonance where it would shake them to their core to have to actually realize that what they've been doing and prescribing is completely wrong. So I reckon it's going to take a while, and there is going to be huge resistance, but it will create a huge change. I mean, you know, you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it will. It does. It's going to create a massive change, and hopefully, kind of, you know, if you do get the naysayers to the conference and the summit, then, you know, you're going to be showing them the science, and then they're going to have to, I hope, kind of, you know, change their mind based on the evidence that's presented. So that's going to be incredible if the naysayers kind of turn around at all. And sort of it'll be really interesting to see how South Africa kind of progresses with this, because you guys are kind of the leading country with this. Probably closely followed by Sweden. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see health numbers kind of over the coming years as well.
Definitely, and I think I'm really looking forward to that. I would hope that the naysayers wouldn't have egos that are too big to stop them from actually saying, sorry, we are wrong. But you never know. I can't speak for anybody else. We'll be calling them out individually and publicly. So you're gonna have to help me with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got no problems in doing that for sure. Especially kind of with my most recent podcasts with Stefan Guillenet and Evelyn Carbsane and David Katz a little bit on calories and things. But yeah, this has been a great chat. We've got a few questions that have been posted on the blog for you. First up, from Triple A, who asks, what are good sugar alternatives? Is honey one? I've heard conflicting reports.
Well, so I don't like anything that's fake or that's trying to mimic something else in any area of my life. So I say no, and honey also contains fructose, which really is what we're trying to get away from. So in my opinion, and for myself, I don't recommend any sweeteners. You know, there are things like rice malt syrup, which I've never tried, and stevia, which are supposedly healthy, but I don't recommend any of them. Do you, Sam?
Not really. I mean, I try and get people to avoid them. I mean, if it's kind of a deal breaker and it's going to keep them on real food, then kind of the best of the lot is xylitol. That has been shown to have some sort of health benefits, if anything, and you know, it's going to be better than them binging on, say, you know, a massive bag of crisps or chips or whatever. So if it kind of keeps them on the track that way, I mean, ideally, I kind of want people to kind of go down the line that you are, kind of in terms of complete abstinence, ideally, for at least a short period of time. But yeah, ideally just trying to avoid is kind of my thoughts on the matter, really.
Because I think, the other thing is that our taste buds change. So if I keep feeding my taste buds with like fake sugar, my taste buds aren't going to change. And if I look at how it's changed since I first started, it's immense. I mean, it's huge. Like even fruit is sometimes too sweet for me when I have it occasionally, because I don't even have fruit every day.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's incredible how your taste bud change and your cravings kind of change a little bit as well. Sort of your default behaviours become completely different. As long as you kind of stick to it for a decent amount of time, then your biochemistry and behaviour completely changes. So question number 2 from Andrea says, "Hello Karen, looking forward to your LCHF summit in February. I'm trying to cut down on sugar and eating fruit instead of sweets. I know this still has sugar in it. What can I eat instead?"
Real like food, like maybe add some extra fat and stuff into your diet, or some green veg or something. But like I would recommend just having a really amazingly big breakfast rather than snacking on fruit and trying to restrict. The feeling I get is that there's still that restrictive mentality there, and that fruit is low fat, so it's healthier, where I wouldn't recommend that at all. So we in the program, the online program that I run, we actually cut out fruit as well for the first 8 weeks because of the sugar triggers and the cravings and stuff that happens for some people. And if I reckon, for real sugar addicts, to cut out fruit for the first couple of weeks is going to do a lot more. It's going to be better than creating those cravings. So I would say ditch the fruit and eat some fat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Eat the fat to smash the fat, we say. But what kind of snacks and things like that do you have, or do you not snack, or do you have kind of any default quick on the go things?
Oh, I only eat like once a week. No, I'm just kidding. I okay, so if I'm really craving, or if I want to do something, I'll just have a tablespoon of coconut oil, which I know not everybody can stomach. I try to eat a really good breakfast at about 10 or 11. I'm lucky that I work from home, so I can. I generally try and have eggs and bacon and spinach or whatever I can have. I try to have a really big meal, and then I pretty much go through the day. I try not to snack. I have a problem with quantities, so even nuts and yogurts are a bit of an issue for me. If I do snack, I'll have biltong or drovos, which you have no idea what I'm talking about. Or
beef jerky style stuff, right? We've actually got biltong.
It's not the same.
It's not at all. We've actually got biltong in quite a few supermarkets over here. It says biltong on the packet and everything. So.
Okay, good. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, or I'll have some avocado, look, I mean, I don't really snack so much. When I first started, I would, and I needed to have 3 meals and 2 snacks in between, just so I could create some structure for myself. But now I luckily do know when I'm hungry, and I do know when I'm full, which is a huge achievement for me, having had an eating disorder.
That's fantastic. And then we got one more question from Martin, who asks, would you advocate eating some resistant starch in the form of potatoes or rice at all? Do you guys put resistant starch in your programs at all? Or?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. But then, I mean, we don't deal with like high performance athletes or anything like that. So the population that we work with generally are quite obese, diabetic, really, really need to lose weight, don't do a lot of exercise. So we cut all of that out completely. I think that's a better question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I recommend some form of resistant starch down the line. So at first, we do similar to you, no fruits, just no sugar, no starch for, at least kind of 4 weeks, if not a little bit longer, ideally, just to reset the person's biochemistry back into balance. And then kind of down the line, is when we may bring back in some resistant starch, which can just be some cold potatoes or cold rice, just about a tablespoon of that, because it actually gets converted to saturated fat in the gut, and it feeds good bacteria in the gut as well. So it's just healthy for gut, and it'd just be literally kind of 1 or 2 tablespoons worth of that kind of at lunchtime, basically. So that's kind of something that we put in maybe far down the line, but starting point always kind of low carb, high fat, avoiding as much sugar and starch as you can, basically. Fantastic. Is that kind of answered that question for you there, Karen?
Beautiful. I loved it.
Fantastic. Well, it's been fantastic chatting to you and finding out even more from the ground in South Africa about the low carb, high fat movement. And people can check out the summit itself, the conference itself, by going to lowcarbhighfatexperts.com, and you can find out who's there and how you can get a ticket as well. And then to kind of join your programs as well, you can go to helpdiet.co.za, is it?
That's right.
Spot on. And then you can kind of find you on Facebook and Twitter and things like that via the website there.
Twitter.
Too. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And there's only one more thing to do, Karen, and that's to hear us smash it out from Karen Thomson all the way in South Africa. So on 3, I want you to shout "smash it out" to the camera. So
are you sure you want me to do this?
Absolutely, as loud as you can.
So what did I say? Smash it out.
Smash it out. That's it.
So are you ready?
I'm ready. So you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Smash it out!
That's what I'm talking about. That's the most enthusiastic and passionate smash it out that we've had. So thank you so much for that, Karen. Very, very much appreciated. Do you have any other wise words apart from smash it out to our viewers and listeners out there?
I think I'm going to have to just leave it with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just smash it out. Just get on with it.
Smash it off. Get on with it. Yes, just smash it out.
Hell yeah. Fantastic. Well, I recommend everybody go to check out lowcarbhighfatexperts.com and at least check in who's on the roster for that conference, as well as checking out ticket details. And then also check out helpdiet.co.za if you want to get in contact with Karen directly, and also check out her upcoming book, which is being published next year, I believe.
I'm so excited. Really, it's going to be amazing.
Fantastic.
Well, no.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for your time today, Karen. Hopefully we'll get you back on after the conference has taken place, just to give us a bit of a roundup of what happened out there.
Thanks, Sam. It was really, really cool being on the show. I really appreciate it.
No problems. Well, thanks a lot, Karen, and speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.